Hello, everyone. I am honored to be a part of the third annual PUCO Forum for the Prevention of Youth Cyber Violence, and I want to extend my thanks to the Blue Elephant Project, the Blue Tree Foundation, the Ministry of Education of Korea, the Community Chest of Korea, and Samsung. Let us begin. When it comes to data, we've been studying cyberbullying for a number of years, and I just wanted to provide some more recent data points. You can see when you compare 2019 to 2021 that cyberbullying victimization went up about 6%. Now, when you're thinking about the percentage of youth who are being targeted, that's a sizable increase. We also saw an increase from 2016 to 2019 as well, even though that was more moderate of a rise. Cyberbullying, I think, will continue to be a priority point, and it must be a priority point, but school-based bullying, community-based bullying still occurs more often, at least in the United States. I mentioned earlier that my perspective is a little bit unique and might not mirror your own experience and what you've seen in your context and in your countries, but I feel like this is relatively stable over the course of time, although again, increasing in the last couple of years, perhaps because of COVID, quarantines, and some of those other stressors that the pandemic brought upon us. I also want to point out that what we identified was that over half, so over 50% of the students who dealt with cyberbullying in the last month said it deeply affected their ability to learn and feel safe at school. So it's important to remember that many youth, they can't compartmentalize or separate their online experiences with their lives. It's all pretty much the same. And so with that said, it does make sense that if they're being targeted online, it's going to affect them at school and probably in their familial relationships, in the community, etc. I also think it's incredibly interesting that of those students who were bullied online, about 1 out of 4, so 23.6%, felt unsafe at school. But surprisingly, well, maybe not surprisingly, but we see that 43% of those who were bullied online feel unsafe at school. Now, you and I might think, shouldn't individuals who are targeted at school feel more unsafe at school? Well, what we're seeing is that when they're targeted online, a greater proportion feel unsafe at school. Maybe because their mind takes the situation to the farthest extreme where they believe they're going to be incredibly harassed or threatened or abused at school. And so that affects their psyche, that affects their feelings of safety at school. So this is just another data point which hopefully compels us to action, understanding that even if it's happening on the weekend online, well, there are definitely consequences or repercussions when it comes to what happens during the weeks or during the days at school. I also think a lot about climate. When you think about climate, school climate that is, you might think about elements such as, do the students feel connected with each other and with the staff? Do they feel like they belong to the school? They belong to something special? Is morale high? Do individuals work together? Do they respect each other? Do the students feel that the teachers treat them fairly? All of these issues and elements come together, and if you have that taking place, well, then you have a more positive school climate. So we've studied this, asking students whether they feel that they're safe at school, teachers care about them, teachers help them succeed, students trust and respect the teachers, etc. They take bullying seriously. And as we studied this across students between the ages of 12 and 17 in our country, we found that schools where students perceived or believed that there was a more positive school climate, there was much less cyberbullying and much less sexting. But in schools where students perceived a poor or weak or bad school climate, well, there was a lot more of these problem behaviors. Also, when you focus on school climate, feelings of connectedness and belongingness, peer respect, safety, all of these elements, well, then you also have higher academic achievement, higher grades, you have better attendance, you have higher morale, all of these elements that we want to see in schools, you have if you're able to focus on school climate. So when I'm thinking about just students interacting with each other, I also think about empathy. And we want students to be very empathetic towards others. In my country, unfortunately, it seems that students are becoming less and less empathetic and caring towards each other, which is really concerning. So when I think about empathy, I think about how You've got affective empathy, which just involves you feeling how another person feels. But then you have cognitive empathy, which involves you being able to understand how another person feels, even if you don't agree with it, even if you're not feeling it. So both of those are extremely, extremely important. And as we've studied this, what we found was that those students with high levels of both cognitive and affective empathy, they engaged in much less cyberbullying based on someone's race. So again, those students with the lowest levels of empathy, well, they were much more likely, and they offended more often in terms of targeting others based on their race. We also found the same findings when it comes to religion. Again, those with higher levels of empathy, they, to a much lesser extent, targeted others based on their religion. Whereas those with lower levels of empathy, they were more willing to target someone based on these identity-based characteristics. In our country, many times when you target someone based on gender or race or religion or disability or sexual identity or sexual orientation, it can be classified as a hate crime, a criminal offense. And so I know the situation might be very different in your context and in your country, but we care deeply about this issue. And so I was very pleased to see that empathy matters. And as I wrap up here, I want to think about identity. Schools have identity. When I was in a school, when I was in high school specifically, I was a Silverhawk. Again, that was our mascot. We were called the Silverhawks, the Lake Howell Silverhawks. And so Silverhawks, we were supposed to, just like a hawk does, a bird does, we were supposed to soar above. We were supposed to rise up. And of course, it's a little bit funny, but we were Silverhawks, and those were the characteristics we were trying to demonstrate at all times. And so we have to convey to our students that this is just what we do because we're Silverhawks, or whatever your identity is that you can tie in. We want to move our students from the mindset of I shouldn't do that because I'm going to get in trouble to I wouldn't do that because I'm a Silverhawk, or because I belong to this amazing school, because we're all responsible here, because we're all respectful, because we demonstrate maturity. We're better than that. So again, if you tie it into identity, especially when our kids are young, especially when they're tweens or teenagers, well, they're looking for identity. They're looking to be a part of a winning culture, and this could be very powerful. So how are you, through messaging, signs, social media, various programs and initiatives, continuing to remind them that they are a great group of mature students who can make excellent decisions instead of believing, oh, they're just children who are going to mess up, who are going to make the wrong decisions. So again, we want constant reminders through messaging of who we are and what we represent. I appreciate this opportunity to share with you my work. I would love to partner further with you to address various forms of online harms. And so again, do not hesitate to reach out to me at any time. As I leave you, I want to tell you that I am definitely seeing improvements in schools and communities when we're able to focus in on school climate, resilience, empathy, moral development, hope, and some of these similar elements. And so let us keep doing our part. And I think that these efforts will continue to bear fruit.